We had some pretty strong comments out of Christine Lagarde, who, of course, now is the ECB president. And she's basically saying that the ECB needs to work together to have these coordinated moves, or else we could have something worse than what we saw in the financial crisis. And that is a pretty strong commentary, of course, out of the ECB. We are seeing the market move higher in Europe, though, across the board. So perhaps the market participants like what she's saying because of the very strong tone that she has. Erin, what do you make of those comments from Ms. Lagarde? And do you think that that's something that's possible and necessary?
I definitely think it's certainly something that's possible. I think that the fear has spread across Europe that they may have put some of their nationalist issues aside and are starting to work together. And we even see that within Italy, just with some, infighting across parties that are all pulling together. So I think in general, Europeans are realizing this is something that we really need to address. Obviously, not only just using monetary policy, but also perhaps increasing their deficits to really get the spending to get the entire region out of the mostly deflationary period in economic activity that they've had for the past months, because they didn't come into this on a strong level. And so I think they're really realizing they need to pull out all the stops.
And Jim Iuorio is also with us. Jim, if I can get your comments on the early going here in the ECB commentary and the movements over in Europe, movements in the pound. What do you make of that? Is it necessary? Coordinated action is something that needs to happen at this point to sort of stem the possibility of the push down in economic growth from the coronavirus and otherwise?
Well, for several weeks, I've thought that the global response was going to be coordinated, liquidity injections, and they're following that script. The question of it's necessary is that markets and central banks seem to be pricing for worst-case scenario. I always thought mid-April for some reason, and not just because the weather breaks and that's the end of flu season here, because also the time frame. If by then it seems that we prepared for the worst and that money is still sloshing around in the system, then I think the U.S. stock market becomes the place. As a matter of fact, with ECB's cutting right now and European markets rallying, I would have made the argument that more of that money would have filtered into the U.S. stock market just because we are less bad from a coronavirus standpoint. And even before this all happened, we were, the U.S. stock market was kind of on the list of almost global safe haven until this correction began. So I actually think when the dust all settles, we probably would have over-prepared. And I hope that's the case. I hope not. And I think that there'll be a lot of money in the system that flows to the U.S.